Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. So today we are going to do some reviews on a bunch of different products. I figured I would combine in one video just so that I'm not doing a bunch of different reviews, and these all kind of came at around the same time, the first impressions of these products, and so I figured I'd do them all in one video. So the first thing we're going to talk about is the IT Cosmetics Confidence in a Foundation, and I did a first impression and demo and wear test on that foundation, and so if you're interested in watching that, I think it is very interesting to see the difference in when I applied it, and then later on in the end of the evening. You can check that one out up above there. But I think I can't really figure out how I feel about this foundation, to be quite honest with you. But I think what I've decided is that I don't love it. I don't hate it. I don't know. I find that a lot of these foundations that I've been trying recently, I can't fall in love with them because I have such great foundations that I've been using that I can really count on, like the one I'm wearing right now, the Lancome Tanti Doll Ultra, the Too Faced Peach Perfect Foundation, the CoverGirl Healthy Vitalist Elixir, you know, and then I have ones that are a little more lightweight that I love, like the Chanel Vitalumiere Aqua, you know, so I think it just takes a lot to impress me, especially with a high-end foundation, but honestly, it doesn't even matter because I kind of felt this way about the L'Oreal Fresh Wear that I tried recently. I liked it. It was good, but I just didn't fall in love with it. And, you know, there were certainly things about it that I was just sort of being picky, but I feel like I should be picky, you know? And the thing is with the confidence in a foundation is that the biggest thing for me, I think, is that it looked pretty makeup-y, pretty heavy on the skin. I found that even if I used a beauty blender, which I typically do, and I used very little amount, I just couldn't really sheer it out. Even if I sheared it out to less than the full coverage, which I typically did, I just couldn't get it to look lightweight on the skin. And that's what I want. Sometimes I do want that coverage. I don't necessarily want it to be a light coverage, but I don't want it to feel heavy. I don't want it to look like I'm wearing a lot of makeup. I don't mind it looking like I'm wearing foundation. That's totally okay, but it just looked like a lot on my face. And so then throughout the day, it just sort of broke up on me and it just made it look worse as I wore it on my skin. There were definitely ways that I found to make it look its absolute best. So in case you are interested in it and in case you don't mind a heavier makeup look, you may be interested in trying it. First of all, I found that using a very, very little amount of this foundation was the way to go. You just don't need a lot of it. And so whether I used a beauty sponge or a brush, I just would work in sections and I would add as little as I needed. And that seemed to work the best for me. I also found that when I used a good long wearing primer, that was how it looked the best on my skin. I found that without a primer, when I would apply it, it would look beautiful on the skin. But then as I would wear it throughout the day, it would definitely start to break up more and it would kind of settle into those lines and not look very flattering. And so if I used a kind of smoothing type of primer, like I love my Hourglass Veil primer, I know that one's very expensive, but honestly, any type of like just smoothing primer, if you're a little more dry, maybe a hydrating type of primer, a pore filling primer, something like that. It's not that you need it when you first apply that foundation, it's more just the wear time. So I think with this one, I wouldn't not recommend it. I would just recommend getting a sample of it to try because I think it is just going to come down to your skin type and your preferences. So it's not necessarily a favorite for me, but it also wasn't a complete fail. I've certainly used things that broke up worse on me and looked worse on me. And when I first applied it, it looked beautiful. So, you know, if I was ever going to use that foundation in the future, which I'm not buying it, so, you know, at least not right now, but if I was ever going to find myself in a situation where I wanted to just try it out again, I would probably not wear it over the course of a long day, even though it claims to be a long wearing foundation, I believe. It's one that I would just wear for maybe a short period of time because for that short period of time, it did look really, really nice. It wasn't a light makeup look kind of foundation, but it still looked really good. So that's what I have to say about that one. Now moving on to the products that I talked about in a video that I posted pretty recently using the Lime Crime Venus XL2 palette, the Lime Crime Diamond Dust in Pixie, and then also the Vamp Stamp. So if you didn't see that first impression video, I did a whole look using all of these products, then you can check that one up above there. But let's start with talking about the eyeshadow palette. And I am actually wearing both the eyeshadow palette and the Vamp Stamp today. I'm not wearing the little Diamond Dew. but I wanted to make sure and at least use some of these things today. So this palette, I'm gonna try and not blind you with it because again, it is very reflective, but I really, really love this palette. I think it is absolutely fabulous. I've been really enjoying it. So let me talk about some of the things that I like about it, some of the things that I don't like about it. So I think probably one of the things that I like the most about this is the overall color story, the fact that this palette is a really unique color story. And I feel like the color story is really cohesive. I feel like all of these shades go really nicely together. They complement each other really well. You can do sort of an all like pinky, peachy type of toned shadow look. You can do an all sort of like toned down green look. Or you can kind of combine the two and they all go really nicely together. Some of these duochrome shades in here can kind of shift one way or the other based on whether you're going with those pinky tones or whether you're going with the green tones. And I think that is really, really cool, and it was just really well thought out. I find these mattes to be incredibly pigmented, but also really blendable and very easy to work with. They work well together. This one in Bloom, I absolutely love. It's gorgeous. It's actually the shade that I have like blended out into my crease. It is a gorgeous, gorgeous shade. It does have probably the most kick up of any of the mattes that I've experienced, but overall not a terrible amount of fallout. But that shade in particular did have a decent amount, I would say. I like the fact that you've got a lot of different shimmer shades in here, but there are a lot of different types of textures that you have. So you have some really high shine, really metallic type of shimmers, but then you also have ones that are a little more satiny, and so you can kind of use them a little more like in your crease, or you know, a little more as just like a soft shimmer if that's what you're looking for. But then you also have some really beautiful topper shades. You know, some of these shades like Crown, Eve are really beautiful, and you can certainly build them up, but they are definitely a bit of a more sheer topper type of shade. And I love the mixture of textures in here. It adds a lot of interest to this palette, I really think. Now, I'm the kind of person that I don't necessarily love those shimmers that are a little bit like flat and not super metallic, but I'm not necessarily calling that a con, just because I know that, you know, they can be used in different ways if they're that way, and you can also spray them, you can build them up, you can use your finger if you really want to intensify them, and it just also adds something different, and it adds something for everybody. I will say one complaint that I do have is that I wish there were a couple more mattes. I wish, you know, this is a big enough palette where you can just use it all on its own. There isn't like a matte brow bone type of highlight shade, but that's not a complaint for me because I have those shades, so I don't need that in a palette. But otherwise, this can pretty much be an all-in-one type of palette. However, I think that you're missing a couple mattes if you wanted to do that. Now, again, you can easily pull in other shades, so I would just probably do that often if I'm going to use this palette. But you know, there isn't a darker green. This is really the only matte green you have in here. This is not a matte. This is one of those more like satiny shades, which I did use as a little bit of like a matte in my first impression look, and you can use it. You know, you still have that sheen, but it's doable. But you don't have like a deeper green. So if you wanted to do an all green look, you would have to pull something else in to intensify because you don't have a darker green. You just have to use this dark brown here. So it's just something to point out. Same thing with, you know, this really pretty pinky peachy shade. You don't have anything really darker. You just have a couple browns here. So you only have 4 true mattes in this palette, and that can be a little bit limiting, but you know, again, just pull in other things. You know, it's definitely something to think about if you like to just stick with one palette and you do not like to play with anything else, but it's easy to pull other things in as well. And just to give you an idea of what I have on my eyes today, since we're talking about it, like I said, I have in Bloom through my crease there, and I also put it all over the lid and just topped it with the shade Eve, which I think gives a really pretty effect, and I love it. And then I just used the shade Classical, this dark brown, in the outer corner to just deepen it up. So that's all that I used. It was a very simple look. So you can do something that is really, really simple, or you can do something a little bit more complex, and you can come up with some very beautiful looks, a lot of different types of looks. You know, I think that the possibilities are pretty endless with this one. And I really do like the tone of this brown here. It has a really beautiful richness to it, and I've really enjoyed using it. And you can, you know, do a pretty warm type of just typical brown look here. You know, you have the shade Ripe here, and then you've got the dark brown, and you've got a lot of like pretty bronzy shades in here that I think are beautiful. I think that these shades are so beautiful for spring, and I just have been really enjoying using it. There's really only one shade in here that I would use as an inner corner corner highlight. There's another one that's doable. I put in my inner corners. I first went in with Mystic, which was just, it wasn't bright enough for me, for my taste. And so then I topped it with Stella, which was good. It's just not super, super bright. It's doable though. This shade right here is actually quite beautiful. It looks kind of boring in the pan, but it's actually a beautiful duochrome. So it's gonna shift a little bit pink. And so that goes really nicely with all of these shades. However, that is really your only like true highlight type of shade, which is fine. Again, that's not necessarily like something that's going to turn me away from this palette. It's just something to point out in case you are somebody who wants to use this palette on its own without anything else. Now, that being said, you could use this shade as an inner corner highlight for every single look. You absolutely could. It's definitely bright and beautiful. And I love that it's not just like a shimmery white gold kind of color. Like it has that beautiful pink shift to it. Super, super pretty. It can get a little bit funky if you wet it too much. If you go in and wet it, you want to kind of lightly wet it. Otherwise it will get kind of chunky and just to get a little bit weird. But on its own, it doesn't even need to be wet. It looks very beautiful. Overall, I would definitely recommend this palette. It is an expensive palette, but you get a lot in here. I mean, these are a lot of different shades. You've got a lot of options in here. It's probably going to be something that's a little more different than what you have in your collection. I mean, I don't know what your collection looks like, but I know I have an extensive collection, and this is pretty unique for me. You know, with some of these toned down green shades, you know, I have palettes that have greens in them, but very often they are either very dark greens or they're very bright neon type of greens, and I don't have shades like these. And so I found this to be really unique, and that was what, you know, just really enticed me to buy this palette, because I felt like it was really something different. It's not going to be everyone's cup of tea, because if you like really bold, bright, colorful looks, then these aren't the pinks and the greens that you're going to be interested in. But if you want to play around with a little bit of color, but maybe a little bit more of a subdued, muted type of colorful look, then this might be up your alley. I think the packaging is really beautiful. You know, I mentioned it is a little bit bulky, you know, so if you were going to like travel with something like this, or, it is pretty thick, but it's nice and sturdy. I don't feel like this is going to break. And I think the packaging is really unique and pretty. And, you know, do I wish this mirror covered up the whole thing? Yeah, I do, but it's still fine. It's a perfectly fine mirror. It's not anything special, but it's usable. So I think if you've been thinking about this one, or if you're just interested in getting a new palette and the colors appeal to you, I do not think you will be disappointed. I've been really enjoying playing with it, and I kind of was thinking about, you know, oh, I can put this one away and pull something else into my everyday bin, you know, because I'm now done reviewing this and I can kind of, you know, move on to something else, and I'm kind of like, I don't know if I'm ready to. And so that tells me I'm still really enjoying this palette. So I might keep it in a bit longer because I really like it. So that's probably going to have the longest review for me because I had a lot to say about that. But I wanted to definitely talk about the little Diamond Dust here, or is it Diamond Dew? Diamond Dew, Diamond Dust, I'm not sure, but it's in the shade Pixie, which is a beautiful pink and green duochrome. And I just have been loving this so much. You can definitely paint it on to be a bit of a more opaque type of glitter shade. It's not quite as opaque as some of the ones that I've used, like from Stila. This is a little bit more sheer, but I think that it is so, so pretty, and it adds such a beautiful effect. And I love being able to just sort of pat it on top of a shadow, and it just takes it to the next level. And I haven't had an issue with this falling on my face throughout the day, and it wears really well, and I really, really like it, and I would definitely recommend these because it's a good alternative to these Stila glitters. These are $20, so they're a little bit less than these Stila ones, which are, I believe, $24. And, you know, they sell them online at Ulta, so if you want to wait till they have a 20% off coupon for prestige brands, you might want to do that, but I have been loving it so far, so I'm really, really happy that I tried this one out. Okay, so then let's talk about the Vamp Stamp. Now, I'm also wearing that on my eyes today, and I'm still really enjoying this. I do feel like I am still learning how to use this. I do not think that this is the type of thing where you pick it up and you instantly get your perfect eyeliner and you're just super, super happy. I think this definitely takes a little bit of practice, and I still think that I am getting better at it. So I think be prepared for that. If you want to try this, I would definitely be prepared to practice this. You might feel like for the first number of times that you use this, that you get it kind of like messed up a little bit. Maybe they're a little uneven, or maybe you just have to start over. and that's okay. You just need to practice with this thing. I got the kitten size, which is perfect for me because I don't like a huge wing, and so I think if you are, you know, an eyeliner beginner, you might want to start with this one and just, you know, work your way up to the bigger sizes, because I would imagine that practicing for the first time with one of the bigger sizes would be a little bit more difficult. I still find this to be really, really nice. I feel like every time that I use it, I feel like I get it a little bit better. I'm not quite there yet. I'm not quite at the point where it's just like boom, boom, done, but I'm getting there. Now, this little brush that came with the Vink, so this is their eyeliner ink, and I haven't tried it with something else, but I've been told that this is the way to go. So, you know, and I haven't had any problems using their ink. So, you know, you could certainly try it with something else, but from what I've heard from other people, that's not necessarily the best way to go. But this little eyeliner brush comes with the Vink, and I tried this one time, and it's just too like thick of a brush. It doesn't give me enough precision, so I don't like that. So in case you were unsure what I'm talking about, when you use this little stamp, you know, you stamp on the wing, but then you have to go in and fill in the rest. And so they included that eyeliner brush, but that just didn't work very well for me. So I preferred to go in with an eyeliner pen that I would normally use and use that to fill in the rest, and that has worked really, really well. The ink from this seems to work super well for me. I haven't had any issues with fading or bleeding or transferring or anything like that. It seems to last really well on my eyes, and I don't have any trouble taking it off at the end of the day. I also feel like when I first put it on, if I need to clean up just a little bit with my fingernail, I'm able to do that while it's still like not completely dry. So I think that that's really nice, and I've been enjoying using this, and I think that once I get really, really good at it, it's going to make my life even easier. But like I said, every time that I've been using this, and I've used it quite a bit, I feel like I get better at it each time. I can tell that I'm improving with it. And so, you know, like I said, be prepared that if you want to try this, you're not going to be a pro when you first use it. I mean, maybe you will, you know, I can't speak to that. Maybe you will. But for me, I feel like it's just taking a little bit of practice, and I'm okay with that. You know, I don't need it to work like the first time that I use it, but the fact that I can see that I'm improving with it shows me that this is going to be really, really good. I've been very pleasantly surprised with this, and I feel really good about finally purchasing it. All right, everyone, so that is it for these little reviews. Let me know in the comments below if you have tried any of these products that I talked about and what your experience was. I would love to hear about that. Let me know also if there are any products that you want to see me do a first impression on, or just a review, or of course both. I love trying out new products and reviewing things, so please let me know. If you like this video, please make sure and give it a big thumbs up. That really does help out my channel so much. I post videos every single Monday and Thursday, 8 p.m. Central Time. If you are not subscribed, please hit the subscribe button. I would love for you to stick around, and I really hope to see you next time. Bye.